Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we would like to present about global warming and possible solutions. For the introduction, the gradual rise in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere known as global warming results from a larger amount of solar energy heat being trapped in the atmosphere rather than radiating out into space. Since the beginning of time, the world has experienced temperatures that allow the birth of living forms as we know them, including humans. This is because the atmosphere of the Earth has always worked as a greenhouse to trap the sun's heat. The Earth would be quite chilly without the greenhouse effect of our atmosphere. However, global warming is like a greenhouse with high efficiency, reflecting glass erected backwards.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arisafan bin Azman, and I will present about what is the issue in specific for global warming. First of all, global warming is the long-term warming of the planet's overall temperature. Though this warming trend has been going on for a long time, its pace has significantly increased in the last 100 years due to the burning of fossil fuels. As the human population has increased, so has the volume of fossil fuels burned. Fossil fuels include coal, oil, and natural gas, and burning them cause what is known as the greenhouse effects in the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, for the next part, what is greenhouse effect? The greenhouse effect is when the sun's ray penetrate the atmosphere, but when that heat is reflected off the surface, it cannot escape back into space. Greenhouse gases occurs naturally and are essential to the survival of humans and millions of other things by keeping some of the sun's warmth from reflecting back into space and making Earth livable. But after more than a century and a half of industrialization, deforestation and large-scale agriculture, quantities of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has risen to the record levels not seen in 3 million years. As populations, economies and standards of living grow, so does the cumulative level of greenhouse gases emissions. Okay, the composition of greenhouse gases includes carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbon, water vapor, methane, and nitrous oxide. The excess heat in the atmosphere has caused the average global temperature to rise over time, otherwise known as global warming. Global warming has presented another issue called climate change. Sometimes the phrases are used interchangeably, however they are different. Climate change refers to the changes in weather patterns and growing seasons around the world. It also refers to sea level rise caused by the expansion of warmer seas and melting ice sheets and glaciers. Global warming causes climate change, which poses a serious threat to life on Earth in the forms of widespread flooding and extreme weather. Scientists continue to study global warming and its impact on Earth. I think that's all from my part. We proceed with another presenter.
Next is, what is the goal of analysis? Since it influences what to expect from the climate in the future, global warming is significant. The possibility that snow and hail will reach the surface can be calculated using latitude. You may also determine the thermal energy from the sun that location can get. Climates, which are characterized as the average weather across time, are the subject of the scientific study of global warming. What is the goal of objective? By implementing various action plans, raising public awareness of environmental issues, and educating the populace about these issues, one can endeavour to conserve and promote a healthy natural environment. Second, to strive toward the development of new environmental education programs to educate the next generation about the value of protecting the environment and preserving it, as well as to incorporate environmental sensitivity into the socialization of children and young adults. Next, establishing technical, professional, and research institutes in the fields of environmental protection, the creation of clean, renewable energy sources, and the dissemination of cutting-edge professional and technical training in communication and information technology.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Putra Alfaka Bezanarin, and I want to talk about the problem statement. Firstly, the temperature we're getting hotter than before. Nearly all land areas are seeing more hot days and heat wave. 2020 was one of the hottest years on record. High temperatures increase heat-related illnesses and can make it more difficult to work and move around. Wildfires start more easily and spread more rapidly when conditions are hotter. Secondly, it will lead into more severe storms. Change in temperature cause change in rainfall. This result in more severe and frequent storms. They cause flooding and landslides, destroying homes and communities and costing billions of pounds. Next, it also will increase drought. Water is becoming scarcer in more regions. Drought can stir destructive sand and storm that can move billions of tons of sand across continents. Deserts are expanding, reducing land for growing food. Lastly, extreme weather events like drought and floods are becoming more frequent due to a changing climate, which has an adverse effect on agricultural development and harvest. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Daniel Afizam Rosdan. I'm going to continue this presentation with facts of global warming. As we can see here are some facts of global warming. Facts number 1. Most of the increase in global temperature since 1950 has been caused by human activity. Facts number 2. The average temperature of the Earth is determined by the greenhouse effect. Facts number 3. Global temperature have increased by about 1 degree Celsius in the past century. Facts number 4. Arctic sea ice and glaciers are melting. And facts number 5. Average sea level is expected to rise between 0.5 and 1.5 meters before the end of the century. While there are some causes of climate change that are natural, like volcanic eruptions, the reason we are facing a climate crisis now is because of human activity. The main causes of climate change through human activity includes burning fossil fuel for energy, intense farming and agriculture to produce meat and crops, and removing forests and trees to make space for other land uses. Human activities such as burning oil, coal, and natural gas, and deforestation have increased the amount of carbon dioxide by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution began. Trees absorb carbon dioxide as they grow, acting as a carbon sink. Cutting them down means more greenhouse gases entering the atmosphere, which speed up the pace and severity of climate change. Greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat in the atmosphere. When the sun passes through the atmosphere, the greenhouse gases absorb the radiation and prevent the heat from leaving the atmosphere. This is known as the greenhouse gas effect. Without greenhouse gases, the average temperature on Earth would be far too cold to sustain life. However, when we add more greenhouse gases to the atmosphere through human activity, this causes more of the sun's energy to get trapped in the atmosphere, heating up the Earth and causing global warming. Greenhouse gases include carbon dioxide, which is usually produced by burning fossil fuel, and methane, which is produced by livestock like cows when they digest food. Over the last 100 years, the average temperature on Earth has warmed by 1 degree Celsius. In our day-to-day life, we may have not noticed much of a difference if the temperature went up by 1 degree, but this temperature rise has had a significant impact on the planet. The temperature is continuing to rise, and the past 5 years are, collectively, the warmest years in the modern record. Currently, countries around the world are working towards the target set out in the Paris Agreement, which aim to keep the global temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius and limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius if possible. One of the most well-known effects of global warming is that sea ice and glaciers in the Arctic are melting. Arctic sea ice is not only shrinking, but the oldest ice is melting, which make it even more vulnerable to melting in future. This melting ice will cause rises in sea level and will increasingly affect people in areas that depend on water from melting glaciers for their drinking water. As oceans continue to warm and expand, and land-based ice in Greenland, parts of the Antarctic, and mountain glaciers continue to melt, sea levels will rise. The planet's oceans are becoming warmer and more acidic. Glaciers and ice sheets are melting, and sea levels are rising. This will have an impact in many countries across the world, especially low-lying areas with high risk of extensive flooding, including parts of Ireland. The IPCC estimate that the Antarctica's ice should contribute about 20 centimeters of sea level rise this century, but also warn of the possibility it could be several tens of centimeters more if the ice sheet become rapidly destabilized.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Asad Abdul. Today I want to talk about alternative available to the decision makers, which is research and analysis. A survey was conducted of research materials published since 2016 dealing with background, experiences, behaviors and awareness to the people every country. A variety of web and print-based resources were examined, including academic sources and publication of federal, provincial and municipal governments and community organizations. Substantial bibliography was compiled, focusing on people every country for particular relevance. Is global warming. The hard evidence offers a true, well-researched and critical analysis of the science supporting the topic. To comprehend future human-induced climatic change, the key climate system processes must be understood in depth. The methods by which raw data are evaluated to provide estimates of design trends and observational systems used to track changes in the climate system are also extensively examined. The author investigated the fundamental scientific theories of the greenhouse effect and anticipated warming and explains the hierarchy of computer models used to project changes in the carbon cycle, the temperature and the sea level. The carbon cycle, climate sensitivity and anticipated patterns of climatic change across time are also covered in depth in the work. Critical evaluations are also made on the effects of the sea level rise and risk and surprise issues. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to continue this presentation with recommendation to stop global warming. First, invest in renewable energy. Second, restore nature to absorb more carbon. Third, switch to sustainable transport. Fourth, protect the ocean. And fifth, reduce plastic. First, invest in renewable energy. Changing our main energy sources to clean and renewable energy is the best way to stop using fossil fuels. This includes technology like solar, wind, wave, tidal, and geothermal power. Second, restore nature to absorb more carbon. The natural world is very good at cleaning up our emission, but we need to look after it. Planting trees in the right places or giving land back to nature through rewilding scheme is a good place to start. This is because photosynthesizing plants draw down carbon dioxide as they grow, working it away in soils. Third, switch to sustainable transport. Petrol and diesel vehicles, planes and ships use fossil fuel. Reducing car use, switching to electric vehicles, and minimizing plane travel will not only help stop climate change, it will reduce air pollution too. Fourth, protect the oceans. Oceans also absorb large amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which helps to keep our climate stable. But many are overfished, used for oil and gas drilling, or threatened by deep sea mining. Protecting oceans and the life in them is ultimately a way to protect ourselves from climate change. Last but not least, reduce plastic. Plastic is made from oil, and the process of extracting, refining, and turning oil into plastic is surprisingly carbon intense. It doesn't break down quickly in nature, so a lot of plastic is burned, which contributes to emission. Demand for plastic is rising so quickly that creating and disposing of plastics will account for 17% of global carbon budget by 2050. This is the emission count we need to stay within according to the Paris Agreement.
Lastly, in conclusion, a lack of knowledge regarding the costs and benefits of adaptation hinders our ability to effectively address the challenge of climate change. Over the coming decades, some effects of climate change cannot be completely avoided. Despite the most rigorous mitigation efforts, these effects are, in fact, already starting to be felt. Because of this, adaptation is crucial, especially when dealing with immediate effects. On the other hand, irreversible climate change would probably outpace our capacity for adaptation over time. That's all from us, and thank you.